Well, I'm going to push record.
Okay.
Do you have any extra, like, did we miss any of those questions when we did all those like Q&As that you want to go over? Or
well, actually, I kind of wanted to bring up something that kind of dives into like what you guys experienced with like lack of sleep and trying to recover and that type of stuff. So, because like one of the questions was like tips for dealing with stress or separating life and mind from training. And then kind of that leads into a question right next to it, which is how do you get the most out of recovery, or how to recover better in less time, or something along those lines. So
that's actually a really good topic.
Yeah. So like I had just some thoughts, like as far as like actual behaviors that you want to change. But you know, obviously there's the, you know, get to bed as soon as you can or whatever type of thing. But like, you know, you have to be up or whatever's going to go on. And then so they're like, what do you do the next day that's going to set you up for great recovery, given that you're not going to be training, but you're trashed from like 2 or 3 days of being awake, or like 2 or 3 days of poor sleep, or just trashing yourself with life or training. So there's a couple protocols that I like to use, and there's a couple like lifestyle things that I incorporate into that. I guess I can just kind of go into them. And that is when you first wake up, I like to make sure and get outside as quickly as possible. Like when you wake up, it doesn't matter if it's sunny or not, as long as you go outside, just so that, because all of the red light wavelengths from the sun as the sun is coming up. So essentially the first 3 hours of the day, like you might wake up late, you know, like let's just say 9:30 or whatever. That's totally fine, because more than likely that's only been like 2 hours since the sun has come up, and you get outside and you get at least 15 minutes of sun exposure while you have taken some copper, selenium, and injectable glutathione. That's the little concoction that I like. Now say you have to still be, you're not going to have the luxury of just laying around. You still have to be like kind of mentally active, you know, like either you're going to do programming or you got to go to work, and your work involves a lot of like being in front of a computer and shit. Then at that time, I would also take some lion's mane with that concoction. And then that's it. Like that's what you do in the morning. So the lifestyle thing is make sure you get outside. And then the 3 things that you would add would be something like copper, selenium, and glutathione. And then potentially on how much, you know, stuff you have to do, some lion's mane. And then later that afternoon, like right around 1 p.m., that's when I would take my first dose of like Kaoken, like a choline donor, something along those lines, so that it doesn't bump you up like with caffeine or anything, and you're still sympathetic, but still mentally capable of doing shit. You know what I'm saying? And so then you lead into the evening, and then in the evening, you would pair that with a little bit of GABA, like, so literally as the sun's going down, let's just say 7 p.m., a little bit of GABA, throw on your blue light blocking glasses. So that's the next lifestyle change. So even if you have to do some work and stuff, it's not interfering with the blue light and shit. And then at that point, you would take like your body weight in micrograms of T4. And the reason why you would do that is because you've amplified all the enzymes that have to do with metabolism and shit with the glutathione, the selenium, and the copper in the morning. And then at night, which is when your normal thyroid production kind of does its thing of like turning T4 into T3.
You're pushing all that in.
Yeah. So instead of relying on your body to make all that T4, you just make sure that it's going to have an abundance of T4. Now, people don't know or might not understand this. T4 doesn't do shit. Like it's not going to keep you up. It's not going to rev you up. It's not going to do anything until it gets converted. But those enzymes that get all that conversion process going got kicked off in the morning. And then you take a bunch of T4 at night, and it's going to be about 6 hours after that. So you're going to fall asleep. You're going to take a little bit of growth hormone, a little bit of carnitine, and I would do Kaoken personally, growth hormone, Kaoken, go to sleep. All of those enzymes with the growth hormone and all those enzymes with the T4 are going to be peaked going into that morning, that next morning, as you've been sleeping deeply, because you're going to sleep really deeply with all these things that we've set in motion from that morning. You're going to wake up like you're not going to wake up. What's going to happen is all these enzymes are going to start kicking in hardcore around 6 a.m. and you're going to wake up super refreshed and super ready to kick ass that next day.
Carnitine's a huge player in that. I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Like that, and I think so. Two things that I would say for that is kind of like with that, like both all of us have like kind of knowledge as to like what these things do and why they do it. Mm-hmm. So if you know that like this is why I'm doing these things, this is what's going to happen if I add in the copper, selenium, what was the other one in the morning?
Glutathione.
Copper, selenium, glutathione, copper, selenium, glutathione, and then I throw in the K-O-CAN in the afternoon, GABA in the evening, whatever, T4 in the evening. It's setting yourself up for the next day. It's kind of important. I would say it's kind of important for people to understand why the things that they are taking, or what actually happens when they take the things that they're taking. So let's say that like my own PED protocol, it's like I take this in the morning, I take this in the afternoon, I take this in the evening. But the Bruce Lee quote is be watered, be adaptable, be able to like pick and play. So it's like if I know that I had a particularly hard weekend this past weekend because Jake and I were coaching Hunter. I also had Anthony Hobaika there, and I was also helping with Christian Arana, who was Riani's client. And there were like 2 nights in a row, I only got like 6 hours of sleep, and then the next day I got like 3 hours of sleep. And it's not exactly setting myself up for a feeling good day, but because my protocol, I'm hitting like 1 mil of K-O-CAN in the morning, 1 mil in the evening. I bumped that up. And I bumped up, I took an additional dose of lion's mane, like we talked about. I didn't have any glutathione, and I bumped up my T4 dose in the evening to follow basically the same plan that you were putting out there. And I think it's important for people to know that, like, as long as you're not doing it with stuff that is going to like mess up the overreach or like the actual like grand plan that you have. If it's like adjustable day to day and like extenuating circumstances, like, okay, I didn't get any fucking sleep, I need to feel better so that I can function, then allow yourself to be like, okay, I know that if I add this and this and this in, it's gonna get me back to normal quicker. Yeah. And then the second thing that I wanted to say, because I think this is the most important, and I think anybody needs to pay attention to this, and this is advice for myself as well, is you're going to put yourself in a larger like mental deficit if you force yourself to be up the next day through like artificial means like caffeine, Adderall, modafinil, whatever. You're not going to allow, because you're forcing yourself back into the fight or flight, the sympathetic state, and you're not actually allowing yourself to make any progress back to your normal.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. Whatever you do is you don't want to bring yourself up through exogenous ways, because that defies, the question was, how do you recover quicker in the same time frame? And that's by allowing yourself to be down. But given our circumstances, we still have to kind of be mentally active. We still got to feel good or want to feel good. So that's where the lion's mane is super powerful. That's where the K-O-CAN is super powerful. None of those are sympathetic by default. They are more like adding in the deficit that you're in. So they're complementing or filling the gap of the deficit that you're in, as far as like mental cognition, poor sleep, etc.
Without driving up dopamine and norepinephrine and all those other
exactly.
guys.
Yeah, you see what I mean? So you're still able to be parasympathetic, but still function and be normal, for lack of a better word. And that sets you up for a better night's sleep. So better recovery now that you're actually going to be able to recover. And then all of a sudden, because of the little bit of the timing with the T4 at night and stuff, you're actually going to wake up extra refreshed, quote unquote, recovered that next day after you do get one full night's sleep, even though you've missed, 2 nights of full sleep before that.
what we could almost go into too, along that same vein, is like, okay, so this is the ideal way. Like David laid that out really, really well. We could also say, like, you know, the typical person might be throwing in Adderall, or they might throw in like modafinil, whatever, to keep themselves going, right? Or a whole bunch of coffee, and that can actually lead into literally giving yourself major depressive syndrome, right? Like you can literally cause yourself depression, like actual clinical depression, because you actually stirred up an imbalance in your brain, because now you're lacking in dopamine, norepinephrine, whatever, serotonin, because now you're sitting in this crappy twilight zone where I can't get up, I don't want myself to come down, so now I'm stuck in depression mode.
Yeah,
and a lot of people think they have depression.
Yeah, so something important there is you like doing like the scenario that we're talking about, 2 or 3 days of no sleep, and you dump a bunch of caffeine in there. It's not like you wake up the next day in the state that you're talking about a depressive episode, but what happens is it doesn't get better. So then you're continually doing the thing of more caffeine, more monster drinks at night. Then I try to sleep, but nothing happens. So then I do it again. And then after 2 or 3 weeks of that, or even like 10 days, then the start of that whole depression type thing is your adrenal glands, which are responsible for not just like epinephrine, norepinephrine, all of those types of things. They start to get worn out from putting that out too much. And so what then starts to happen is you start to see a downturn in progesterones and other things, specifically with women. Like this is a big one with women.
Yes, that's a big one, because that's where that conversion happens.
Yeah. So the progesterone goes down, and then what happens when progesterone goes down? Serotonin goes down. Then you start getting the quote unquote depression feelings from that type of behavior.
And then you just taught your brain too that it needs caffeine, like caffeine is part of its existence.
Exactly. And I think this right here is literally how like me as an individual, like we talked about it on the Mark Bell podcast, like I literally found myself in that twilight zone, the wired tired feeling for years on end, because like you said, David, it's like you have the days in a row where you don't sleep, and then you get yourself up through exogenous means. And then even if you're up that next day, even if it's like, okay, I've completed my task today, so I'm going to get extra sleep and I'm going to crash tonight and get my 8 hours, you still wake up the next day exhausted, because if you took an Adderall or took like a pot of coffee or like drank like 3 or 4 Reigns or whatever the fuck that day, you literally forced yourself into that sympathetic nervous system all day. You've never allowed yourself to actually come down. So even if you are sleeping, it's not quality sleep. And then you're groggy again, and you repeat the cycle, rinse and repeat over and over and over. And then people get into this like the actual like depressive episodes where it's not a matter of like, oh, I'm sad. It's literally a matter of you've willed this upon yourself through fucking with your brain chemistry with all this shit that is so readily available to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
So are we recording? Because I actually have a hard out at 7 p.m.
Yes, we are recording.
Yeah.
We are. Yeah.
Cool. I love this.
Yeah, we've been recording since the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. You can edit that out.
No, we won't. It's fine.
We won't.
It's fine. But
I had to go get my glasses. Yeah. Cool.
But
your
yeah. So they're, God damn it, these are blue blockers. They have the fucking things in them.
Look like fake.
I'll send you the fucking.
They're just not the stylish kind like me and Joe.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like I wish that I could get like the blue blockers, like that color and that, because it's placebo. I know it's placebo. I know it's 100% placebo because I know they do the same thing. But it's just like I feel better when it's like everything is just tinted slightly, and it's like, okay, it's like relax time. I'm just chilling.
Yeah. Well, and that goes a long way. Like the whole, you said placebo, but it's like, if you feel more relaxed, like whatever switch that is, like, and the reason why I bring that up is like, so one thing that I like to do, especially like deep in meat prep, and I'm taking a lot of stuff, and like, I'm just kind of like a workout goes excellent or even goes shitty. and I'm just like dwelling on the workout, like whether it was good or bad, doesn't really matter, but you're still kind of in that zone of like training and it's hard to get down. Sometimes it's even hard to eat. I like to literally just go outside and like get cold as fuck. Like whether it's take a cold shower and walk outside or whatever, and just really get cold as hell, because what that starts to do is kind of snap your brain out of whatever mental state it is. And it's totally placebo. Like I feel like, oh, that makes me relax more. It may or may not, but it doesn't matter. What it does is it gets my mind and my brain switched over. Like, yeah.
There's actually science to that, because when the sun comes up and it starts to get warmer, that triggers that ACTH gene, that cortisol wakes you up. And when that sun goes down and you get colder, it's actually like part of that circadian rhythm. So you feeling cold and calming down, that's absolutely, there is actually like a lot of research into that showing that it does.
Well, see, there you go. That's another part you could add into how to recover better in the same time frame, is learning to switch that off and turn that off via cold, literally.
Yeah, and why do you like it? That goes hand in hand with like, why do you think it's so much nicer, or why so many people feel so much like they get so much better sleep when it's colder? And then like when you're like, how we saw people do it doing this at the meet, and I encourage it for a lot of people. And like I've seen you do it, I've seen myself do it. I'm sure David does it. Like you warm up, you do your attempts, but you leave the hoodie on, you leave the sweatpants on, you get a little hot. You get a little like going, because it's just like, all right, I'm actually like doing this athletic activity. I need to be up. I have a little bit of sweat going on. It's like, okay, we're in go mode now.
Yeah. I maybe it's just me because I love drugs. So what I like to do is I like to, like the morning of a meet, I'll take a triple dose of T3 along with like I'll split up my nicotine gum, so that I always have plenty of nicotine gum to go out throughout the day, because nicotine gum combined with T3 makes me hot as fuck, like without having to do much.
Yeah, it does.
And so like I just move around and I start fucking sweating all over the place.
And when you're hot and sweaty, you can fire so much better.
Yeah, that's always how it's been for me. Like whenever I have a day where I'm like I'm fucking dripping sweat, it's like that's almost always like I feel fucking great in that training session. Like no fail.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, all right, we're working. Everything is firing at 100%, like what I need to do.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, when Joe came and stayed with Kiara and I, and our AC went out in the summer, it's August. It's literally 100 degrees. And our AC goes out right before you and Bree came, and Joe sleeps overnight here. And I think it was like 80 degrees in our apartment. I felt really bad. And you got up the next day and how'd your squat session go?
Horrible. I was like, because I didn't feel like I slept at all, dude. Like we got like a solid 8 hours, but I woke up and I'm like, I'm gonna it was another one of those like, I'm gonna fucking die. Like I can't do this.
Well, there you go. So there is a very important, crucial thing that people should consider, is the temperature of their body when they're trying to be sympathetic or parasympathetic. You can leverage it both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Cold temperature is a huge one, and also conscious breathing. That's another big one. Like if you ever notice you're feeling anxious, you'll probably notice like you have really shallow breathing, like but if you sit there and actually force yourself to take those deep breaths, it triggers your brain to like, hey, I'm calm, I'm good, I'm in control.
Yeah, dude. And like honestly, like I'd pay good money just for somebody to follow me around like you did during our training session when we were at Mark Bell's, because you literally kept, how many times did you tell me like, yo, conscious breathing, hey, breathing, hey, breathing, hey, breathing.
We're in between sets. He's like,
just talking like fucking da-da-da.
Yeah. I'm like, breathe.
Like, oh yeah. That's probably a thing that I'm blessed because I just train at home, But if I'm ever at a gym, that's totally what happens to me between sets, is like, I'm not actually well enough recovered to perform well, especially if I do a lot of talking. Like if it's just me and one other person, it's not that big of a deal. But like at a gym where people know you and stuff, I can totally see where I would be like off the rails doing that type of thing.
100%.
It's big.
Yeah.
I think we pretty much covered like those two questions. I didn't really have anything other than that, because they were just interesting to me. Like, how do you speed up recovery and how do you do that type of thing, or leverage that? And I think we pretty much covered that. Not anything else.
Go, Jake.
Okay,
what?
go ahead. I was gonna say, I don't know if any of you guys saw that comment on the podcast that Joe and I just did on the Mark Bell, but they said oral carnitine, I can't remember what stupid version they decided to put about it, was more effective than injectable carnitine.
Fumarate or whatever, or whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember whatever garbage it was. And I was first laughing at it, and then I was mad about it, and I was going to make some comment, and I was like, "Nah, this isn't worth my time." But that was super irritating to me. And so I don't know if anybody listens to both of these. Injectable carnitine is 1,000 times more useful than oral carnitine. So that was stupid. I just had to, I had to say that.
Well, and not just that, but it's not even like, so like, just from like that perspective, like somebody says that, and then how do you convince them? I don't have to convince them because it's a simple blood test. So literally you can go to Life Extension and you can order a serum L-carnitine blood test. I guarantee you pick any oral version of carnitine. You run it for 3 weeks, mega dose it till you get the shits. I don't care. You're not going to get a super physiological level of serum carnitine. You inject it.
And there's plenty of studies to show that.
Yeah, right. But that's what I'm saying. You don't have to take anybody's word for it, even a study's word for it, because you can just test this yourself. and I've done it. And so, like, you inject it for the same time frame. Okay, you'd run the same test again. You inject it at like let's just say 300 milligrams. That's not even that much. 300 milligrams a day for 2 weeks. You go do the same serum blood test. You're going to see that your blood carnitine level is supraphysiological. That's a key point. Nobody says the L-carnitine is not orally bioavailable. I'm not saying that. It is. It's just not going to ever let your body take it supraphysiological, and that's the whole point. That's what makes injectable L-carnitine a PED, is that you can leverage it now in that format to go supraphysiological, which is where you really start to shine as far as the benefits. Same thing with the choline. You can eat a ton of eggs, and they have a shit ton of choline. That does not mean you're going to have a super physiological level of choline to be subsidized into acetylcholine. It's just not going to happen. But the moment you inject it, we all know that becomes a different ballgame.
And that is the key. It's people love to forget about that word, but it is supraphysiological, because there are things that you can do as a natural individual to like optimize your natural testosterone. You can put yourself in a position to have the highest testosterone levels and the most receptive androgen receptors out there, but within natural ranges. But if you really, really want to get into the boogie woogie, it's like if you inject testosterone, that's the only way you're going to reach that supraphysiological range and actually get the benefits of being on it. Same with choline, same with carnitine. And honestly, it's anything. It's like, would and this is super fucked up analogy, but it popped into my head. Would an opiate addict rather eat heroin or inject heroin? I'm gonna wager to guess that the injection will probably get you more fucked up.
Very good point.
If you want to take it another step, you booty bump it. That's the real answer.
You could booty bump it.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, just like I said, without even really going too deep into that, anybody who mentions that, the very first thing I would say is like, okay, for less than $30, we can find out, literally. Like, let's just order a blood test and we can sort it out. But obviously we don't have to go down that route, because if you just think through it with logical sense, with the whole concept of the reason I'm taking it, which kind of goes back to what you said in the podcast, Joe, is why are you taking it? Are you taking it because you're trying to optimize shit or bring you to the highest natural level? Or are you doing it because you want an actual PED benefit, meaning you are super physiological, you're running the engine hotter than possible, hotter than you can normally get it on purpose? If that's the reason, then this is your answer. And if the first reason is the answer, then yeah, do whatever you want with the oral version of honestly anything. Like I think one of the hosts brought up oral ATP, like it's available, on Amazon and shit like that. And I've seen it all over the place. Actually, it's been pretty popular. And some clients have come to me taking oral ATP, and I'm like, do you feel it does anything? They're like, not really. I mean, maybe placebo. That's about it. Like, I don't know. They're like, just like, I don't know. And then I go, okay, try this. And, we move to the big brother, the real deal. And all of a sudden I get a message that goes, holy fuck, that was incredible.
Injectable. When I did ATP for my first time and I injected it, it was within an hour. I was sitting just like doing stuff, waiting to go to the gym, just trying to catch up on stuff. And my resting heart rate jumped up like 10 to 15 beats. And I was like, I gotta go. I'm starting to get kind of sweaty.
Yep. And that's like how we talked about on the podcast. It's like it's super physiological ranges. Like you're going to get there if you inject it. And specifically with ATP, it's like your body, it needs to be used. It needs to go somewhere. So it's like I gotta go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, it was kind of funny. I did see that comment, and I was going to bring that up. I'm like, it's fine to think that, and then it comes down to answer the why, and you'll come up with the right answer. It's just like,
yes,
don't short yourself.
And that's really what we're trying to push. This whole thing we're trying to push with training, PEDs, everything, is you're trying to look at it and you're saying, what am I trying to accomplish, and why am I doing it, right? And that should be the thing, is you should be introspective. You should be able to look at things and say, like, I am doing this for this reason, or it's worthless. Like if you don't have a reason, then it's like, if you ever see that Alice in Wonderland where she's like, well, which way should I go? And the cat's like, well, where do you want to go? And she's like, it doesn't matter. Then it doesn't matter, right? Like that's the whole idea.
Exactly. Yeah. And I legitimately have like a client or two kind of like that. Like I ask them like their actual training goal, and they're like, I really don't care as long as I look better and as long as I feel better, and at that point I literally just have fun. I'm just like, okay, well, let's try this for 4 weeks and let's see how
for me this is fun. So
yeah, exactly. And so it's one of those things where then that's where you get into the realm of like refining like how you program, just because you get to try some things like that may or may not go together and shit like that. So that's kind of fun. But at that point, the training, as far as like how it's constructed, like people like to get into, like, it's kind of funny to me, like clients like ask how you program, like they actually know what that fucking means.
Yep.
And I'm like, we're going to program for whatever the hell you want me to program for. That's how it works. I'm like, I don't understand the question. Like, if you're telling me if I use a system, then I do. And the system is not like conjugate or linear. It's like a combination of a whole bunch of other, all of them really. And it's just like, I've combined certain puzzle pieces from those that fit what I think is going to work for you at the starting point because of all these questions that I've asked you. And that's really how it starts. And then and then they completely forget that they asked me about programming. Like, what is programming? Do they even know?
Exactly. And that's, I feel the same way. I hate that fucking question because it's like, it's an unanswerable thing. It's like, I wish I could just be like, yeah, I use the Sullivan strength systems and that's it. And everybody knows what that is. But it's like, no, I literally take everything I've learned from all of these different fucking sources and a bunch of different other methods and apply them to you for specific instances and specific goals, but might change them as the goals go along and as the goals adapt and fucking change to blah, 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 blah. It's like everything is so malleable and like.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly, it's the way I like to reference it is just like a GPS. Like, I am your GPS. Okay. And you might want to go to frickin' New York and I want to go to New York. We want to go to the same fucking place. But guess what? You're in Las Vegas and I'm in Wyoming. So guess what? We have to start at different points. That's the starting of the program. And along the way, you might take a detour and I got to recalibrate for you. I got to redo. Hey, and now I know I was telling you to take a right for the last 10 hours, but something got fucked up. And now I need you to take a left and go this way for a little while. to get you back as close to the right, landing point. That's really what a good like coach that's in depth, like that's not selling you like a cookie cutter program is doing. That's what they're doing. They're being your GPS to try to get you to that final destination, or the destination that you told them to begin with.
Yep. Absolutely that. It's like, and a big part of that in the GPS analogy, or like thinking about a GPS, it's like sometimes the individual, like the GPS might think this is the best way, but the individual might be like, but I want to go the scenic route. I want to go this way. And then the GPS has to be like, okay, we're going to adapt to that desire or whatever.
Yeah. And have you seen the new maps, the new maps features where it's like the most fuel efficient way, or do you want to go the fastest way?
Yes.
I mean, like, the client has a big say into that, but it's important for them to choose that. That's the other side of it.
Well, and one thing that I've kind of that helps me, like, just because like I have to dial myself back, and me and Jake were talking about this earlier, like not everybody is willing to lay it all out and like be so adherent to whatever the hell I lay out, nutrition, PED, like there's a lot of moving parts, you know what I mean? Like not everybody's going to be like me, where it's like, I got a fucking calendar that tells me when to wake up, when to eat, and when to pin shit and all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Some people, I just have to be like, how much of a buy-in? Like you told me your goal, but like, are you like a beginner at this goal? In other words, your buy-in, you're telling me the goal, but your buy-in to actually accomplish that goal is maybe, 50 to 60%. Well, that's a beginner. And then I know that. And then I don't expect them to be like, 100% compliant or anything like that. Then my thinking there with my programming and my nutrition is, let's get the basics down. So at least we know you're moving in the right direction, but it might not be the most fuel efficient way to get there. And then some other people come to me and they're like, I'm like, how committed are you to this, whatever goal that you told me, and they're like, and I usually give them, is it 60 to 80%? Like this is the thing that you think you want, 60 to 80% committed to it? Or is it more like 80 to 90% committed to it? And then there's the top tier, the elite athletes, or the people that are all in, that's like, no, I'm ready to do, I'm 90% in or better. Like I'm going to do everything as good as I possibly can do it, given life circumstances. And I'm going to try my best to be 90% adherent or better. And at that point, then I can start designing like some pretty complex protocols, like actually getting down to the nitty gritties of like, hey, the timing needs to be a little bit more specific. The meals that we're eating at certain times of the day or certain days of the week are a little bit more specific. That type of shit. Like a novices. Go ahead.
No, that's a great question to ask your clients. I'd never really thought about is like, what is your buy-in level, right? Because some people are like, dude, I will freaking eat dirt and dog shit if I have to. If it's gonna make me better, I'll like do whatever.
It wasn't until I met Mr. Natural. It wasn't until I met Mr. Natural that I came up with the idea of like, I should ask people that, because to me, like he literally told me, he's like, I'm just gonna fucking do it. I don't care what, like that is going to happen. And I believed him 100%, So I was like, well, fuck, if I have people that are that bought in, I can literally make them do whatever the hell I want, or whatever, whatever needs to happen will happen, or at least they're going to attempt to do it. And then there's other people where literally it's like, and it's not like their problem. It's not their fault, but it's like every week they're like 60% adherent to some of the stuff, and other stuff is a little bit more, and other stuff is a little bit less. And at that point, like, I might get a little bit frustrated. I used to get even more frustrated, but it's more of like, no, this is just who they are. They are a beginner at this fitness thing or this goal that they're trying to do. They haven't really attempted it or been so focused that it's going to drive them to do the thing no matter what.
Yeah. And I think right there, that's kind of what you should focus on. It's like, it's not necessarily their fault. It's literally just a matter of their priorities, because a lot of people can come into the fitness realm, whether it's powerlifting, strongman, getting a body that they want to look like, or whatever their goals are. And they can come into it and think like Mr. Natural, when he first, and this is for everybody that's listening, like this is an outside circumstance where a guy came to David and was like, I will literally do whatever it fucking takes. Like, give me an hourly schedule to achieve this goal, because he's in some like fucking physique competition or something. But it's like David could tell him like, go headbutt that wall for 30 minutes, and it'd be like, okay, how many reps should I aim for? It's like that level of adherence. But,
yeah. As long as it doesn't involve PEDs. That's why I call him Mr. Natural.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I will do anything other than that. And literally it was like, okay, well, you kind of will have to do anything other than that to get this to work like you want it to work. And I'm like, you're not going to have exogenous help. It's like all on you. It's all your willpower. Are you really committed that far? And he goes, fuck yeah. And I go, he didn't say those words, but he's like, yeah, I will do that. And so at that point I was like, man, okay, I'm in.
Right. And that's how it is. That's how that situation for that guy is. And he's willing to do all those things. But so, like, let's say he came into that scenario and was like, okay, I want to achieve this goal. And you were like, okay, you're going to have to follow everything to this level of adherence, this level of effort every single hour of every single fucking day to hit this goal. And then after having that conversation with you, he's like, well, fuck, I still want to have my barbecues on the weekend. And it's like, okay, well, then we need to reevaluate what the goal is, because you need to realize if you want to hit the goal and actually have the barbecues on the weekend, you probably are going to either have to extend the timeline, or like modify your expectations, or potentially even reevaluate your comfortability with PEDs, because you probably could do that if you're using PEDs, but if you're not willing to do that, extend timeline, extend goal, or modify goals or whatever.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. So we only have a couple of minutes left. And I was just on the same kind of topic. What would be your guys' number 1 or 2 traits that you like to see in a client? Like, what's your ideal client?
For me, it's number 1 is communication. In a sense that they're always wanting to tell me information about the things that I'm giving them. So whether it's training, nutrition, and I literally mean anything. Like if I tell them, hey, here's your meal plan, and they come back to me like, I fucking hate that food, I don't like that, that is totally cool with me. Or exercise, or all of a sudden it's like, hey, when I take this level of insulin, I feel like this. Like the most mundane shit makes a difference. And
yes,
that is probably number 1 to me, is the person that communicates the most with me gets the most out of me. It's just that simple.
Yes.
And it's never like, because I've set it up, like they never have to feel like they're bothering me, because I'm not going to respond unless I'm ready to respond. It's not like they're ringing me up, on a phone call, but it's always through messages. So that's the number 1 for sure for me.
Yeah. And honestly, I'd follow along and be right there with you, because for me, it's mundane communication, because there's a difference between communication and like actual mundane but thoughtful communication for the goal that we're going for. Because I have clients that, and I love these guys. They're like, a lot of my clients are my friend, or all my clients are my friends, but some people that have hired me, they like pay for access to me, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to send Joe memes because we're like buddies now, or I'm going to be like, hey man, how's your day going? And it's like, no. Like I am spread thin enough. If I get another notification and it's not meaningful on my phone, it's immediately going to make me fucking hate you. I don't care who you are. Like I could know you for a decade, but if you send me some meme that fucking subpar powerlifting memes has posted, and I know everybody's gonna see it. Everybody's gonna see it. I'm gonna see it, but then you're like, oh, this is relevant to us. I'm gonna be like, ha, don't fucking send that to me ever again. It immediately makes me hate them. But if somebody messages me and is like, hey, and it's not even like I have clients that send me videos of every single set that they do. Mm-hmm. That's not even what I'm talking about. It's like if I got one set, or if I didn't even get a set and somebody was like, hey man, this feels kind of uncomfortable when I'm doing this. Or like this, I don't like this movement, or I enjoy this movement over this movement, or I feel awkward when I'm doing this. What do I need to do here? Just somebody message me and having a little bit more detail and a little bit more like thought, not just like bombarding videos and not just like meaningless stuff where it's like, oh, check out this meme because we're buddies now. Or just like, or responding to my story with like 100 fucking reacts or whatever, like I don't know, like the thumbs up emoji and shit. I'm like, no,
yeah.
that's not what I want.
Yeah,
So-
if anybody sends me like the WYD thing or the like how are you, but you didn't even bother to spell it out, that freaking irritates me. I will never answer that. If you ever text me that, I'm never gonna answer. Okay, I'm gonna leave you on red every single time.
Yeah,
That's the drives me nuts. I'm with you. Communication's big. If you talk about relevant things, I love getting the text, love getting the videos. But if you start saying stuff like, how you doing? It's like, dude, no, don't do that. You're just stressing me out now.
Yeah, well, because you know, our job is to serve them. So it's like, if they're not making, like, asking you a question or anything like that, it becomes a stressful thing, because you're like, okay, are you going to ask me a question, or is there something coming next? And you're just kind of left on. Yeah, exactly. So no, I
there's
totally
like
like that.
3 people that are allowed to text me recreationally. You two and Kiara.
Yep, exactly.
I'm upset.
Well, right on. I think that's kind of a wrap, right? You're going to be leaving here soon, right, Jake?
Yeah, I just gotta get on another call.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, well, sweet. Well, all right. This was episode, I don't know what episode this was of the PED Podcast, Performance and Education Discussion Podcast, but Joe Sullivan here, theaodcollective.com. David Herrera, plug yourself.
Yeah, David Herrera, 1119 on Instagram. And the website where you can get a hold of some KO-Ken is darylstrength.com.
Jake.
Yeah, and then I'm Jake Benson, JakeB_43 on Instagram. And yeah.
Sweet. And continuing the theme of shouting people out, just because I posted this today and we were talking about it before we were starting to record. Big pleasure meeting Chris Bell at Super Training Gym this past weekend. He was the creator or director or something of Bigger, Stronger, Faster, which is honestly the first movie I have ever seen, or the first piece of film or literature or whatever that I watched relating to steroids or performance enhancing drugs. So if you haven't watched that or its sequel, please go check it out. And then go and tag Chris in a story or something and tell him it was awesome, because it is. And it's one of those OG pieces of information that I feel like everybody should read at some point.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yep, I third that.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Right on.